I do too. Typically, heroic strategies, very, very good against clunkier removal suites. And Gerard is the typical hero's downfall style of deck.
Now, Thoughtseize is a great card against Tom. However, Tom does have a lot of creatures in his opening hand. A favorite Hoplite, 2 Secret of the Ways. You see the Defiant Strike in the lands here. No green mana just yet, but no green cards in hand.
But this is kind of the other side of the equation. When we talk about heroic strategies, we talk about Thoughtseize being good against these hands that are 1 creature and then a bunch of spells. You take the 1 creature and there's nothing going on. This is kind of the other side of the equation where you have that creature-heavy hand, and you can either break up their curve like Gerard did or take the Defiant Strike, really the only card to get the ball rolling. And then they have fairly anemic creatures left over.
You saw Tom start with a Temple of Enlightenment. Gerard has a Temple of Abandon. Leave that card on top. We'll go to the boss. Boss picked up a copy of Dromoka's Command. Again, no green mana just yet here for him. There's a Plains, there's a Secret. Kick it over.
And I really appreciate the tightness of Tom's mana base here. 8 fetch lands, several copies of Mana Confluence, Temple of Enlightenment, bunch of basics.
The mana actually looks surprisingly good in this deck.
Because you're not looking for double color mana. So you can afford to fetch 4 basics in your 3-color deck, and that's okay.
Here's Hero's Downfall. On the main phase, no shenanigans, just get that creature off the table. A play I like a lot from Fabiano.
Yeah, not messing around. We saw in Tom's earlier match against Chase, when Chase got a little fancy with some of his removal, what happened?
There's a Seeker in passing of the turn. Tom actually does have a copy of God's Willing in hand now. Fabiano will draw a card. It's a slow roll draw. Here it comes. Ah, yes.
No, when it's the slow roll draw, it means Gerard's putting it in the back of his hand.
You've known Gerard for so long, you know his tendencies.
I do.
Well, here's a Thoughtseize. It's a timely one. God's Willing, Defiant Strike, Dromoka's Command, and an island. I would be surprised if he did not select God's Willing.
Seems like the most obvious choice, especially if you have a removal spell to follow up with. Gerard reading Dromoka's Command here, getting a little refresher course.
Well, there's a lot to know.
So many modes.
Yep. It's like 4 good deals. Defiant Strike is actually the selection. I'm the most surprised by that one.
That might mean that Gerard's trying to block.
Okay.
You know, if Gerard has a follow-up like Courser or Crufix, for example, you want the Defiant Strike removed from the hand.
We have just been informed, by the way, by multiple people, so we do care. Thank you. Mount Rainier is active.
You better get out of Seattle.
It is very active.
Evacuate the city.
I told you my plan. If it goes off, I'm just going to drive north.
All right.
How won't that work?
Yep.
Haven't you seen a movie? Mana Confluence to draw. Green mana is here. Tom could expend his resources to get Tasker off the table. I'm not sure if that's something he wants to do, but it's an option.
Well, this is why Gerard gets paid off here for taking Defiant Strike, because if Defiant Strike was in Tom's hand, then the Dromoka's Command would pair very nicely, and Tom would get to draw a card. As it stands, Tom can now just empty out, but you know, you're playing against a Gerard-style deck. You know, he's probably got other blockers, other removal spells. I think the alternative is not very good. Tom can't just say go here, so his hand's forced, but the unorthodox play from Gerard last turn really paying off.
Yep, there's a God's Willing. Now here's Dromoka's Command. And Tom will get a bunch of damage through and get Tasker off of the table. So it's still a good turn, but Gerard's selection with Thoughtseize ends up being very good there.
And Tom is now left with just a 3/3 in play. And Gerard can draw a removal spell or a good blocker and have this game stabilized.
Oh, and Tom did scry to the bottom, too. So we don't know what his draw is going to be, neither does he. Fabiano with a Temple. And now there's Murder's Cut.
And now playing draw step to draw step here, you have to feel like Gerard's got the better of it.
Has to favor him in this situation. It just has to. There's Nurborg in a passing of the turn. Ross will take a draw. It's a copy of Hero of Erois. There's an island. Here comes the hero, we think. Yep. Kick it over. Fabiano with okay.
Whew. This escalated quickly.
Yes, it did, Dragon Lord Tarka. Boy. That card doesn't mess around. Tom, gonna take a look. We can do the same. 7-man 8/8 Flying Trampler comes into play. Deal 5 damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and/or planeswalkers.
I think Tom with Dromoka's command in hand, but a little bit out of the range here.
Ah, yes, the cycle Defiant Strike. The thing that makes a Tarka pretty difficult, too, is it closes the game out really fast. Hits in chunks of 8.
Yep. 8's a lot, even with Tom getting a lot of life earlier.
Ordeal of Thassa was the draw. Tom has to pass the turn back. Here comes Dragon Lord again. Tom down to 13. There's a carry added. Kick it over. Ross. With the Manic Influence, pass the turn back, draw. 8 more puts Tom down to 5. Take a draw. Hero of Herois. It's a little late. Heroic can make 8/8s. That's difficulty beating them, though.
Needs a couple turns.
Yeah.
And Tom without any turns to work with.
Gerard Fabiano going to win game number 1 here against Tom Ross. John Midrange up a game here over Banteroic.
You will notice a bemused smirk on Tom's face there as he picked up his permanence. Perhaps his first loss to Dragon Lord of Tarka.
Take a look at the sideboard today. We will start with the boss and his 2 copies of Monastery Mentor, Laguna Band Trailblazer, 2 Encase in Ice, 2 Ordeal of Heliod, a Temple of Enlightenment, 2 Treasure Cruise, 4 Stubborn Denial, and an Ajani's Presence.
Like Ajani's Presence a lot in the matchup. I think the copies of Encase in Ice could be reasonable here. I like the Trailblazer a lot. I think Tom brought in Monastery Mentor in a previous matchup against Chase Kovacs, in a matchup that's a lot more hostile towards Monastery Mentor because of Wild Slash, so I would imagine he's going to bring it in here as well.
What is he on the other side of things?
Anissa Worldwaker, a Duress, a Hero's Downfall, 3 copies of Bioblight, 2 Drowned in Sorrow, a Doomwake Giant, a Farika God of Affliction, 2 copies of Reclamation Sage, another Dragon Lord, Kolagash this time, excuse me, and 2 copies of Read the Bones. So the removal spells in Hero's Downfall and Bioblight are excellent here. I think Drowned in Sorrow, the more that I watch Heroic in action, the more that I think Drowned in Sorrow is actually pretty poor against them, because it doesn't answer the one big thing you're trying to get to, and it's pretty easy for them to get, even if they have many creatures in play, to get them past 2 toughness. The Duress is very good in this matchup, for the same reason that Thoughtseize is good.
State's right around the corner. I know people are looking for Brews to play. These are 2 brand new decks. Really, I mean, yes, it's Heroic, but this splash of green for Dromoka's Gun makes it a pretty different deck, actually.
Yeah, Standard States just a week away, April 11th, and Modern States the following day, April 12th, so some brewing to be done as well with the new cards there. StarCityGames.com/states for more information. If you happen to top 8 Standard States on Saturday, you get this play mat as a result. And then if you top 8 the Modern States the following day on Sunday, you get the following play mat. And if you get both of them, voila, this exists.
Jigsaw puzzle.
2 pieces. First one goes on top. Boom.
Second one goes on the bottom.
There you go.
It's tough. It's tough to figure out, but I believe in our viewers at home that they can do it. Standard is Saturday, April 11th. Modern is Sunday, April 12th. StarCityGames.com/states for more information. And I'm playing in both. So if you'll be in Washington, I got 3rd in states last year.
Yeah.
You better look out.
Yep.
Okay?
You in Washington, you're all playing for 7 play mats. Because we already got one locked up.
I got one.
We already got one locked up.
Now, for Modern, I'm going to play Tron and probably go 2/2 drop, but I don't care because I want to play it. But for Standard, Patrick's going to build me a red deck. You said you'd do it.
Okay, I got you.
I demand no Rabble Masters.
I'm not going to play Rabble
Perfect.
Master.
Patrick's going to build me a red deck. So if I fail with the red deck, it's his fault. Boom.
Without me covering the matches, it's really hard to say.
His fault. It's bad deck building. Something we rarely say. It'll be bad deck building if I lose.
I don't know how I feel about Dragon Fighter just yet. Versus Bardu Scout, because you can only play so many 2s.
Yeah. Every time I see those decks without Mardu Scott, I get kind of sad. I think that card's sweet.
It is sweet.
Plus, he's on like a surfboard and stuff.
The art's sweet. Card's super good. No Fire Drink Crusaders in these lists.
I know you don't like that. I know you don't like that. The 1-drops are too good now.
I don't think they're that good.
Are you a Swiss beer kind of guy?
I don't mind it.
All right. I'm not sure the best way. I'm gonna leave it up to you. Send me. I'm talking. I want it like Friday at like midnight or something.
Yep.
Super late.
Okay.
So I can't back out.
Gotcha. That's easy to do.
Beautiful.
That's in fact even easier to do.
Beautiful. That's what I want. Real late. Get ready to do battle all day. States is just a sweet tournament.
It is sweet. Constructed pre-release to some extent, though we have a little bit more information now than we have at previous state championships because we have the results from the Invitational in Richmond and Syracuse here as well, but still it's early on.
If you are following on Twitter the hashtag SCGNY, I like to give our Twitter followers a lot of credit. At Jedi Shane, you just nailed it. Really well done, Jedi Shane. If you guys want to know what we're talking about, use the hashtag SCGNY. Really impressive. As we're going to start things off here with a favorite hoplite off of a windswept tee searching up a plains. Temple of Malady is how Fabiano will start things. You right over there?
I'm fine.
You're good?
I am just surprised the certainty with which you were like, no, Mount Rainier is not active. And then all these tweets rolling in of, actually, in fact, it is.
I don't have a lot of volcano knowledge. I admit that. I just hope that it's not active. Here are the beatdowns. Defiant Strike. Enabled beats here will mean that Tom is attacking for 3.
Are you familiar with the Magic card Active Volcano?
I am.
It's a sweet one.
A real stinker.
Has its moments. It definitely has its moments.
Fabiano going to search up a mountain. It's got nice artwork.
People like boomeranging lands, man.
There she is. Look at that. Destroy target blue permanent or return target island owner's hand. Enchantments on target land, gone.
Yep.
They
That's
are
actually,
destroyed.
Yeah, that's just actually clarifying the rules, which I like those kind of, I like that kind of text box on the old cards.
That's Seattle right there.
That's just how the cards work.
Saw a Seder Wayfinder there from Gerard. Now Tom will move to his 3rd turn, figure out what he wants to do here.
Pretty good window here, I think, Tom, with Johnny's Presence and Ordeal of Thassa in play, can have a pretty straightforward turn here of getting his Ordeal online and protecting his threat.
It's always so much fun to watch Tom because when he figures out what he wants to do, he moves so fast.
Yep. There's some fidgeting, some looking around on the cards in his hand, but there's no hesitation while he's in the middle of the stack.
Same sacrifices Flood Triangle, go get an island, so he might have Ordeal right now.
It's one of those, measure twice, cut once sort of things,
Yep. There's the beatdowns trigger. 2 cards coming for the boss.
And I think that's actually a place where good but not great players get into trouble, is getting too fidgety with their lands, giving away information the whole time. You watch the players who are very, very good, typically, they're not messing around with their lands or fidgeting that much with the cards in their hand. They're just looking, and then they act. Reed Duke, the top of the list.
The king.
The king. You get nothing from him.
See what Gerard wants to do here now. It's the 3rd turn of the game, but he's underneath a healthy amount of pressure.
And when you get into spots like this where your opponent's representing God's Willing or possibly a Johnny's Presence, you just have to kind of push through these tricks because your red removal doesn't work. You can't block. And so he's got to hope that he has enough removal against the tricks that are in Tom's hand and has enough time to deploy them.
There's God's Willing. And I agree with you. That's really all you can do. It's just hope that they don't have what lines up appropriately.
These are the heroic draws that are really punishing towards green decks.
Yep.
Gerard didn't have any real resistance until turn 3. And by that point, with Tom on the play, that's too late.
And think about it. This is part of the reason Heroic became a deck to beat up on green mid-range decks.
Yep.
Your Siege Rhinos of the world. I know Gerard is an Obzon, but his deck still falls into that camp. Tom going to sacrifice a Windswept Teeth. We'll see if he goes for the Forest here or not. And he will. This is a real good turn. Here of Herois, Ordeal of Thassa, trigger Heroic, get some counters, draw some cards, mana available still.
And normally I'm critical of basic lands that look like they came out of the draft box at your store, but since Tom's deck is a bunch of his spells and creatures are also leftovers from a draft deck, I mind it much less here.
Bob like going after Hero of Herois. I'll get the job done. Here's Temple. Top card to the bottom. To the boss we go. Monastery Mentor, the draw.
Not surprising that Tom brought these in.
There is a Mentor. Here's a Defiant Strike. Looks like someone's trying to get this game over with right now. Gerard says, that's good enough for me. Tom Ross going to win game number 2 here against Gerard Fabiano, which means we get to watch a third one between Bant Heroic and Judd Midrange. Don't mind if I do.
Do not. Predictable starts there from both players. Gerard able to win a game where he stays on top of Tom early on and then plays draw step to draw step against him, where Gerard's a huge favorite. Game 2, Tom able to get off to a start before Gerard can muster any resistance, and by the time Gerard can start casting some removal spells, it's too late.
We weren't surprised to see Monastery Mentor come in. It brings monks along with it. And, well, Jacob Wilson decided he wanted to be a monk. And so it's done.
Yeah. This token, low on comedic value compared to something like the Derek Sheets token.
True.
But an excellent, accurate portrayal here of Jacob in all of his monk form here, the Season 1 Invitational winner, and his token already somehow completed. I don't know how that's possible.
We don't waste any time.
Apparently not.
We want to get that out the door to players as they come to an Open Series event. If they make an order at Star City Games of $5 or more, so you can expect to be getting these in your orders or at Open Series events very, very soon. Congratulations again to Jacob Wilson, our Season 1 Invitational champion. He won $10,000 last weekend. He won his likeness on a card, and he won an invite to our Players Championship.
Yeah, congratulations to him very much so. Is Kristen Pluskow just the name of a robot you have in the office? Is that or is that a person? Because I just don't know how that got turned around so fast.
She can dial it up.
I guess so.
And draw super well, too.
Yep.
It's unbelievable, really. I don't know how she does it.
Congratulations again to Jacob Wilson. Our first invitee to the Players' Championship who was not there in 2014.
Oh, look at this. Some more Volcano media on Twitter. I've been told that it's not actually the eruption that I need to be worried about. It's the Lahar after the eruption, debris, and mud flows.
Yeah.
Will that be in Vancouver, since I've already driven there?
Yeah, I'm just waiting. I can't wait for the CNN headline that says, all residents of Seattle killed in tragic volcano eruption except for Cedric Phillips, who drove to Vancouver and survived.
That Honda Civic can really move, baby. All right? It can really get going.
The one person who survived Mount Rainier erupting, Cedric Phillips. Although you're actually probably going to be in trouble because I imagine that your passport's not up to date, and they'll just turn you back at the border.
They'll turn me away.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry, sir. You have to go back.
Really? Given the state of affairs? Yeah, rules are rules. Sorry. Yeah, that's just a bad beat right there. That's on me.
Yep.
That's on me for being lazy and not getting it fixed.
Right.
And it actually does expire this year. So that's just tough to watch right there. Gerard gonna go back. I think this is the first time I've ever seen this.
Yeah, I mean, Gerard's recorded mulligans are very rare.
I've covered a lot of his matches, known him for over a decade.
Is it Mount Rainier erupting rare? Not quite.
Tough to say.
But it's pretty rare.
Tough
You
to
don't
say.
see a lot of this. But this is the kind of matchup where Gerard knows that. I think that when Gerard's playing other mid-range matchups, he's willing to keep some dodgy hands of lands and spells, especially when they're kind of the Thoughtseize duress style matchups. Here, Gerard knows his regular hands that are slow and don't defend himself early, they just can't be kept. So, is he dodgy with the hands he keeps? Yes, but I think that's more true in mid-range mirrors than it is in matchups like this, where Gerard he knows what he has to find.
Tom taking a mulligan as well. Both players were taking a look at 6 cards. It's actually considered, by the way, episodically active.
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know either.
Doesn't seem like a problem.
No. The city appears to be fine, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
Temple of Malady. Top cards stay on top. Tom's first draw is Seeker of the Way. Here's a favorite hoplite. We're underway here in game number 3 of round 6. Thoughtseize. Tom's hand is a 1-lander. He's got a Defiant Strike, an Ordeal of Thassa. Center Soul, Ordeal of Heliod, and a Seeker of the Way. Pretty good hand. It seems like he is relying on the Defiant Strike. Like, this is a hand I think he's going to keep a high percentage of the time.
On the draw with a Defiant Strike and a 1-mana play, this hand's fine. And Gerard's bringing a lot of discard and removal to the table, so you spell-dense, sketchy 6-card hands are going to be a lot better than your average 5-card hand.
The big question, of course, is what is Fabiano going to take? We saw him take Defiant Strike last time. He's going to do it again.
Yep.
There's a Temple of Abandon. Top card goes to the bottom. He's hoping Tom doesn't peel an untapped one. See what Tom finds. It's a Battle-Wise Hoplite. Time to attack. It's a miss there for the boss. Fabiano will draw. Lands do not seem to be an issue here for Gerard. He's got a Wooded Foothills and passes the turn back. Ross will draw. Looks to be a Windswept Heath. And now this is part of what happens when you play a third color.
Yeah, there are fewer islands in Tom's build than there are in Blue-White Heroic. And now he's drawn a Windswept Heath here instead of an island. It's a big cost.
Also has to decide, too, because he drew Windswept Heath, if he wants to search for a forest or not.
Well, he doesn't. I guess because he's in a spot where he might have to chain together multiple spells in the same turn, he may have an incentive to get a second plains. Typically, Tom can get away with just going and getting a forest here, but the nature of his hand might mean he gets another plains, and that's what he's doing.
Yep.
No Dromoka is commanding the hand right now, so and even if he did have it, it wouldn't be particularly good, so no rush to get to it.
It's also unclear how many are left in his deck after sideboard, too.
Yep.
I think there is some number left in there. I'm not sure if it's the full 4. I mean, you saw him opt to go get a plains instead of a forest. Fabiano's going to sacrifice his Wooded Foothills. Forest or mountain coming.
We focus a lot on Tom's mana troubles, but Gerard might be having some of his own right now. His deck is very much dependent on double black in this matchup. He's got his hero's downfalls, of course. Bio Blights, Drown in Sorrow on his sideboard if he brought it in, and it's not clear if he has double black right now. So even though he has 3 lands and all 3 colors of his mana, he might be having some stumbles of his own.
See if Gerard has anything to play here. Looks like Murderous Cut. Yeah, he will cast it. Get Favorite Hoplite off the table. Gerard will draw. Ooh, I like the sweat.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think this is a man without double black.
I think you're right.
He's slow rolling himself this early in the game.
It's turn 4. Bang.
Bang.
There's Hero's Downfall. Just how he drew it up. Manic Influence is how Tom drew it up. Good draw there. Battle-wise Hoplite. Pass that turn back. I think we're in store for a good one now. Forest.
This is the problem when you're playing against someone who's stalled on 1 lands. When they start drawing out, it's all gas.
Yep. He's got spells.
And Tom's showing his hand there because Gerard's checking his notes, and Tom's showing he does know the nature of his hand right now.
There's Hero's Downfall again. Back to the boss. Treasure Cruise is a really nice draw.
Not, you can see Gerard there. I mean, he's just joking around, but that draw is really bad news for him. Game's sort of dragging out here a little bit, and Gerard running out of action.
Oof. He's got some action now. It's a 4/6, no exploit.
Yep.
Does not want to sacrifice it easy. At least it doesn't look that way.
Well, he's thinking about it. He just doesn't have a tutor target that really locks Tom out here. Any card he gets is going to be of about equal value to a 4/6, and this way he keeps a 4/6 in play and can start attacking.
There's a Seeker of the Way. Back to Fabiano we go. He's got a clock on the table. You mentioned it there in Sidisi. It's a 4/6. It's real hard to block.
Very important for Gerard to be able to remove this Seeker, both from a tempo perspective and once Tom starts getting life, then Gerard can't damage race, and then it's very hard for Gerard to do everything he needs to do.
Gerard going to play some defense here. Tom picked up a Windswept Heath. That's land number 4.
And Tom's running the Stubborn Denial too, and we've hit a point in the game where that card's going to be awesome.
Yep. Now we can see how the boss wants to move forward here. And you know that brain is working right now. He'll start by playing the Heath. There's Ordeal. That's just a passing of the turn. More of a setup turn. There's Llanowar Waste. Fabiano will pass the turn back. Ross will draw. God's Willing is certainly a nice one.
Now he can start pushing his creature into a range where Stubborn Denial now colds Gerard's removal spells. So Tom just trying to measure his threats, not overextend into something, give himself the opportunity to deploy Stubborn Denial for full value at a moment's notice.
There's God's Willing.
Just keep developing his board.
Looks like Tom is going to sacrifice Windswept Heath. Looks like with this on the stack. Not entirely sure. This, of course, will trigger prowess, too. But it looks like Tom wants to start pushing through some damage. And rarely do we see Tom aggressively use God's Willing like this unless he's going for the W.
I think this might just be, he wants to get one turn of uncontested attacks, get his Seeker up to a size where maybe he trades with the DC next turn, or maybe a follow-up protection spell does some real damage, leave up Stubborn Denial the whole way. He can also just have one turn of doing a lot with this Seeker, getting his enchantments online, and then just not attack until he can either remove this DC or have some trick to play over the top.
Fabiano look at only a couple of cards in hand. He hasn't done much over the past couple of turns. Here's Bioblight. So Gerard will finally make a move. Tom is going to cast Center Soul. That's the rebounding protection spell. And it works very nicely in this deck. It does cost 2 mana. And we've already seen spells cost 2 mana in this deck, like Feat of Resistance. But the fact that this triggers Prowess multiple times, triggers Heroic multiple times, is actually really nice.
Well, this is a great spot for this card also because Tom already needs to be able to push through the CDC next turn as well. So the rebound just naturally allows him to set it to protection from black next turn. And then CDC can't block this turn or next turn, which is great.
Tom gets the Scry with the God's Willing. Now the Seeker gets to come across, gets a counter from the Ordeal. So it'll be a healthy chunk of damage here.
But this is shields down right now. I do not believe Tom has another single white protection spell in his hand. If Gerard can find a removal spell, he may be able to get this game turned around. You see Tom's hand here, a lot of blue cards, Stubborn Denial, and Ordeal of Thassa, but there's a window here for Gerard to rip a removal spell and get right back into it.
He took a look at his card rather slow. There's a Satyr Wayfinder. A couple of cards here. Caryatid, Tassiger, Murderous Cut, Bioblight. Those are all going to the bin. Unsure what that card is in Fabiano's hand. Wouldn't surprise me if maybe it's Dragon Lord Atarka again, which would have been huge. Looks like Tom may have forgotten the rebound. Not sure.
I mean, this seems like the kind of spot where you would want to just definitely Ordeal for black against a Death Touch blocker. We'll see what happens in a moment. And Gerard would still have gotten a chump block here with the Wayfinder, but that's way different than trading.
Mm-hmm. And there's your block. Defiant Strike. And it seems like a misstep there by Tom. Forgot to rebound the Center Soul. Yep, you can see it now as he puts it in exile.
Now, keep in mind, it's not a guarantee that Center Soul is game over because Gerard could have chump blocked this turn with the Wayfinder, assuming Tom sets to black, and the next turn Gerard could have cobbled together the same block like he did this turn. But this is obviously not what Tom wanted.
Yeah, this game's changing now because now here's Xenagos. It's going to make a Satyr token most likely, and we'll see if Gerard wants to attack with it or not. Tom's at 27.
Yep, but a steady stream of chump blockers here from Xenagos is pretty awesome for Gerard.
Tom will draw. We don't typically see a lot of emotion out of Tom, but that was certainly a misstep last turn.
Yeah.
He'll get a Forest. The hand's not great now either. Stubborn Denial, for example, is useless. He does get to cruise, so he gets to reload. That's what he's going to do. So 3 cards coming. Hero of Iroas is one of them. A couple of creatures there.
And this is the type of game where Monastery Mentor could be awesome if Tom finds it. We give him a way to overpower the Xenagos. He's got a lot of spells to work with.
Now he's got to figure out a way to get back into this game. He's got enough mana to do it. He's got lots of cards, too. He'll start with the Hero of Iroas. He'll follow up here, it looks like with some sort of enchantment, as he's only tapping 1 mana. It could be a favorite Hoplite, too, but he'll go with Ordeal. He'll trigger Hero of Iroas, of course. He'll pass the turn back. Fabiano going to quickly untap. It's time for him to take a draw step. Gotta wonder what that card he's been holding for a long time is. We saw Dragon Lord Atarka help Fabiano win the first game. Here's a Thoughtseize. 2 Ordeals. Another Hero of Aros and a Plains. We can't forget about the Stubborn Denial as well. Those are the cards that Fabiano's looking at here.
And this is a really good spot here for Gerard if he has another removal spell. The board's clear. He's applying a lot of pressure. Tom's hand's not great on the follow-up. If Gerard's last card in hand is, say, just a land, then there's a lot of work left to be done.
Yep, and there's the Dragon Lord. That's Xenagos moving up too. And now this game gets really, really hard because much like the first game, the closing speed on this card is unbelievable. You saw Fabiano take the creature with Thoughtseize, leave Tom with all spells. He's basically forcing Tom right now to draw a creature like this turn.
Even if he does, Gerard can just pivot back here, start blocking with Xenagos. He's got 8 in the air, so he can block on the ground and try to manage it that way.
Battlewise Hoplite was the draw. That's a great start. Tom will take 1. There's Ordeal. This will allow him to scry. Take a look at that top card. He'll have to think about it here.
Now, a problem here is that Gerard cannot generate a spread of blockers. Everything's green. So one God's Willing here, unless Gerard draws a black creature or a red creature, will allow Tom to push through. And we know that with the other copy of Ordeal in his hand, it's not unreasonable for Tom to do so next turn.
Tom's going to put that top card to the bottom. There's a Plains past that turn back. Fabiano going to untap. He'll take a draw step here. It's tough to sweat the draw when you have no cards in your hand.
Harder to slow roll yourself, yes, without incurring potential slow play penalties.
Gerard going to look over the board here. He's got that Dragon Lord Atarka, 8/8 flyer. Satyr token, Satyr Maker there in Xenagos. Satyr Wayfinder in play. Now he's moving around some mana. Not sure what the draw was, but it seems like it was something helpful.
A removal spell is obviously great here.
It's going to be Read the Bones as he goes down to 6.
A red or black blocker is great here.
Both those cards go to the bottom.
And everything else is nothing.
I think we're going to see the we're going to see the sweat. That's 1. That's 2. Not that much of a sweat. You can tell he does not feel comfortable with where he's at.
He knows about Tom's hand, so he knows he's likely to die here if he doesn't find some sort of removal spell or a non-green blocker.
3 mana. Looks like he's taking 1. Maybe Hero's Downfall? Yes, sir.
All right. That probably will be good enough now for Gerard.
Now he gets to make a Satyr token. Now he gets to get in with a whole bunch of creatures, probably all of them if he'd like.
He attacks for 13 this turn, and then Dragon Lord takes care of everything next turn, even if Tom has a follow-up. So it had to be the last one, but Gerard dug as far as he could for it.
Yeah. He had to pay some life to do so, too, with the Read the Bones. But he'll do it, and he'll win it. Gerard Fabiano going to win this match over Tom Ross 2-1. Jund Midrange will take care of Bant Heroic. Fabiano going to move on to 5-1 with his Jund Brew. The boss moves down to 4-2, but it really comes back to, I think, that Center Soul missing the rebound there for Tom.
I'm not positive if the game... because I feel like Gerard still maybe gets in the same spot next turn to make a block, but that was a huge deal.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was a huge deal, and Tom can't be happy about that.
Yeah.